Welcome, my dear Dreadfuls. I'm Nyx, curator of this penny dreadful moment. And for this dark Halloween, the story I have for you is from the published collections of John Olsen, author of the Stranger Bridgerland Series. This story is from his second book, Beyond Stranger Bridgerland. You can find the Stranger Bridgerland books and his newest release, Stranger US, on Amazon. I'll leave the links below in the description. But for now, why don't you join me? Come and sit by the fireside. Listen to this encounter, as told by Brad, called Trolled on Mount Naomi. I moved to Cache Valley in the summer of 2002. I had visited a good friend going to school at Utah State and fell in love with the valley. I was single at the time and in my early 20s. I loved the outdoors. Logan was perfect for me because it had rock climbing, hiking, camping, and great snow for snowboarding very close to town. Early one fall day, a friend and I decided to hike to Mount Naomi. We planned to take a bedroll and simple cold food. We couldn't cook because there was a fire restriction at the time. The day came for us to head out when I got a call from my friend. He had a family emergency out of town and wouldn't be able to go. I decided I would go on my own. When you're in your 20s, you're invincible, and I wasn't afraid to hike and camp alone. It was a quiet Wednesday in September as I pulled into the parking lot in Tony Grove. It was almost empty. There were a few vehicles and one trailer. I loaded up and hit the trail. It was a beautiful hike as I followed the path heading north. The hike begins at Tony Grove, which sits at 8,100 feet elevation and ends at 9,984 feet elevation at the top. The terrain is mostly outcropping of granite rock and tall pines at this elevation. I took it easy, not pushing too hard. I knew I was going to spend the night and push on to the top the next morning. I hiked until the sun began to sink in the west. I found a flat spot about 40 yards off the trail under a large pine. I ate my cold dinner while watching the sunset. When it got dark, I crawled into my sleeping bag and pulled out my headlamp and a book. I always kept a paperback book to read in my pack. I read until I got tired, then laid in my bedroll and watched the stars until I fell asleep. I awoke with a start in the middle of the night. As I came to my senses, I realized it was quiet. Too quiet. No sounds at all. I'm usually a very deep sleeper, and it takes a lot to wake me, so I knew something had to have happened for me to wake up. I was very uneasy, which was also not like me. I've spent many nights camping alone without any problems. I knew there were bears and other animals around, but I couldn't hear anything. I tried to calm down and sleep, but the unease I felt continued. Suddenly, I heard a sound that I couldn't place. It was like a calling whistle. I racked my brain to think of any birds that sounded like that. I sat up in my bedroll and looked for my headlamp. I was about to give up when I was struck in the chest with a small rock. I froze, and I realized the whistle had stopped. I quickly slipped my boots on as my mind swirled. Birds don't throw stones, and I couldn't imagine what was up here that could throw one. As I got my last boot on, I remembered that my lamp was still on my head, and I fumbled to turn it on. I looked around to see what had thrown the rock when I froze. About 20 feet from me, sitting on a pile of exposed rock, was a creature. The figure was small, around 4 feet tall, and was crouched down on its haunches. It had pale, gray-green skin. Its features were close to a man, but its ears and nose were longer and pointy. It was very bony and sickly-looking. Even more strange, it was wearing a gray, worn-out shirt and ragged handmade pants. I was in shock at what I was seeing. It was surreal as I took it in. The creature had big black eyes and a large mouth. As I sat trying to take it all in slowly, the creature got a broad smile on its face, and it leaned forward. Suddenly, it whistled at me through its teeth. I looked down and realized it had my paperback book in its left hand and was slowly sliding it behind its back. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. If it had my book, then it had been right next to me as I slept. This snapped me out of my trance, and fight or flight mode filled my body with adrenaline. Scooping up my bedroll and grabbing my pack, I sprinted towards the trail. As I hit the trail, I tripped, throwing my stuff everywhere. I caught my breath and gathered all my belongings as I kept a close watch around me. I got everything shoved into my pack and put it on. I wrapped what was left of my bedroll over my backpack. I had just started heading down when I heard the whistle again, not far behind me. At that, I ran at a sprint down the trail. The rest of the way back, I heard and saw nothing. I quickly loaded my truck and sat in my vehicle, trying to catch my breath and come to my senses. I drove home, questioning my sanity. I never camped alone again. I have been very selective to whom I have told this story. I have come to believe others might have seen this creature, but will not share their story because it sounds crazy. I questioned my sanity for a long time after, but I know what I saw was real. Writer's notes. Many Native American cultures have names for such creatures as explained by Brad in his story. The Pukwudgie, known in Native American lore, is native to America. A small, gray-faced, large-eared creature distantly related to the European goblin. Fiercely independent, tricky, and not overfond of humankind. It possesses its own powerful magic. Pukwudgies hunt with deadly, poisonous arrows and enjoy playing tricks on humans. Now that's the end of our moment together, my dear Dreadfuls. I hope you enjoyed this By the Fireside story. If you did, go get John Olsen's Beyond Stranger Bridgerland from Amazon for yourself. And don't forget to leave Penny Dreadful Moment a tip, if you think I have done a dreadfully good job tonight. Now, I'll leave you with this little thought. Remember, my dear Dreadfuls, don't be afraid of the dark. Be terrified of what is in it. Until next time.